I know you, and I've known you for several years now, but tell us, who is Jonathan Wesley?
Sure. I am ever evolving, and name that. When I think I've reached a plateau, I understand there are other heights and dimensions that I'm going to. So, as of right now, who Jonathan Wesley is, I'm queer in every way, which encapsulates my sexuality and gender identity. I'm a practivist, a new term I made up.
Okay.
So I'm a practitioner, an academic, and an activist. I serve the academy, I serve in faith spaces, I serve in governmental agencies as well, doing the work of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And outside of that, I love music, I love people, and that's what brings me joy.
Now, I'm going to put it in layman's terms.
Okay.
He's a preacher, teacher, and a reacher.
Oh, yeah, there you go. There you go. That's
and all of that.
Yes.
So, tell us, what are your pronouns? How do you identify?
My pronouns, oftentimes when I introduce myself, I say my pronouns are as fluid as I am. So there's not one specific that I just say, hey, call me this. But it could be just based on whatever energy I'm presenting. So I'm very, very fluid. So whether someone uses he, she, they, Z, it doesn't really matter to me. I answer to them all because I'm fluid like that. So I don't have just like one as a checkbox.
Okay, so now does that go with being, do you identify, let me ask you this, do you identify as pansexual?
Yeah, I do identify as pansexual.
And for those of us who may not be as knowledgeable, would you please explain what that means?
Yeah, so pansexuality, at least from my understanding of it, as it relates to the attraction of others, I'm really attracted to energy, which goes beyond gender, which is why I don't identify as gay, right? So with understanding that spectrum, I mean, I could be in relationship with any gendered person, whether cis, trans, non-binary, etc., because it's more of their energy and their spirit that I'm attracted to, and that then creates relationship for me. Yeah.
Awesome. So it's really about the feeling, how you feel, the connection, as you said, the energy when it comes to your attraction to another individual.
Yes.
It's spirit.
Yes.
Not personage.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
So, how do you feel about gender roles in today's society?
Today's society, now, if you asked me this 20 years ago, of course, my response would have been different. As I was socialized as Christian in a traditional home, I grew up in Jersey and Newark, so I'm from the inner city, so it's very traditional gender roles, right? Men are supposed to do this, women are supposed to do that. But as I've gotten older and as I've studied, right, gender roles are social constructs. So I think once the soul figures out how it wants to present itself, then whatever roles accommodate the soul will be most beneficial to said person, right?
Awesome.
So it's not like having to be within this box of this is as a man you're supposed to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and as a woman, that's also very controlling considering our structure within society anyway, with hierarchy and us being very patriarchal in nature. So I don't think that there's a certain thing that a man is supposed to do or a woman is supposed to do. It's whatever your soul finds to do.
Yes.
That's what you should do.
It's very funny that even in our faith traditions, we will oftentimes say that God is both male and female, but yet we hold each other to these binary constructs. You will find in scripture where it talks about the masculine or the male attributes of God, but it also talks about the feminine attributes of God. So, but yet we put each other in these boxes, but yet we want spirit to be spirit.
Right. And you can't do that when you try to contain spirit in a binary, because God is not binary. I mean, even when we study religion in various religious traditions going outside of the Abrahamic religions, those of us who identify as like non-binary or genderqueer or two-spirited, these individuals in ancient African or other indigenous religions, shamans, the people who identified as the non-binary were deemed to be the closest ones to God. Right? So somewhere along the line we've lost that, especially like I said within the Abrahamic religions, because that's not the teachings there, as it has become very dominant to support patriarchy. I mean, we have to also understand that the Abrahamic religions were really created by men.
Yes, absolutely.
So there's always going to be that underlying bias that is in the writing of the religious text. Nevertheless,
but it's so very true that we see the world through the lens of our experience, and so with the same thing with the King James version of the Bible or any other of the dominant religions, it's written from a male-dominated perspective, and so what about the female perspective? What about the trans perspective? What about the gay perspective? There's so many other things that we're not considering, and we're boxing individuals in and we're boxing ourselves in. So let me ask this, how, with your expression, your experience, your essence, your being, how do you navigate your relationship with your family?
That's been ever evolving as well. So I came out early. I came out as bisexual first when I was 15, because I felt like at the time that's what I was. And as time progressed, it's like, oh no, I'm not bisexual anymore, I'm gay. And then it went from, oh no, I'm not gay anymore, like I'm pansexual. Like, because I had to understand that sexuality as well as gender, they are on a spectrum, right? So I had to figure out what made sense to me. So my family at this point, I gave them an ultimatum though when I was a teenager, like, either you're going to accept me for who I am or you're not, and I'm going to be good. I made the commitment to be good. So in that, when I left Jersey to move to South Carolina to go to undergrad, you know, I have always found my chosen family, even at 15. Like, I used to go to the pier all the time from Jersey going to New York, and I found chosen family there. I found chosen family in South Carolina. I found chosen family in Georgia. So I have more chosen family than my connection to my biological family. In most instances, because most of them just don't understand it, but they also don't try to understand. But if a person is not in a posture to try to understand, it's not my job to teach you or make you change your posture. That's something that they have to seek out with their divine being or whomever they pray to. That's not my problem, right? So I let them handle what they need to handle, and they can watch me from afar. Right. And if they have questions, then I engage in the conversation, right? But if that's not what the truth is, and I just let them be, and all is well.
And your job is just to simply be.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So you mentioned undergrad, and so you and I happen to be members of the same fraternity.
Yes.
How was your experience navigating being in this organization where masculinity and machismo, if you will, is the order of the day, where same-gender individuals, same-gender loving individuals, as well as anyone else of the LGBTQ spectrum, are often looked down upon. What was your experience navigating that space?
So then, I'll say then and now. In undergrad, I was out. You know, like I said, I came out at 15, so I was not going to retract that for anybody. This is who I am, and if you can't accept it, then you don't want me. Period. You know, I didn't pledge the fraternity because I needed a sense of identity. I already had that going in too, right? And that's not being arrogant, right? Because I'm not an arrogant person at all. But there's something when you know who you are and you're confident in who you are, and you can see what does that organization, what can they add to me? Like, let us see songs say, you know, how are you going to add to me? Like, I want to know, if I pledge you, how are you going to add to me? But also, what am I adding to you, right? And me adding to you is my lived experience and me being authentically myself, and do y'all want me or not? And so, you know, they made the choice to select me and my other line brothers at that time, which out of my line, you know, 90% of us were queer. Now, that did come up in conversation, right? Because it was always, you know, gay this, gay that, whatever. And so, you know, it was what it was. People are who they are. Fast forward to now, I have most recently challenged our pole mark. Awesome. Because I said, if we're going to reclaim brothers, what's the reclamation efforts for those that identify as queer? Considering the fact that our organization is very heteronormative, heterosexist, and just discriminatory. And I was routed to the reclamation chair, the national reclamation chair. He and I had a conversation, and his response was, "Oh, well, we don't have those problems in our organization."
Oh,
yeah.
really?
Yeah. This was
Well,
as recent as like September, October of last year.
Well, if I may be candid, because of some of the things that were said and did in my own experience, I am a brother who has not been active in almost 20 years. Part of that is because there was no safe space within the organization where I felt like my voice was wanted, needed, or respected.
Yep.
And so we need to have that conversation, especially across all of the Divine Nine organizations.
Yeah.
So, wow, thank you for that. A personal thank you for having the strength, courage, and wisdom to have that conversation at the national level, because it is definitely overdue and much needed.
Yeah.
So thank you so very much. So why is it important, since we're talking about conversations, why is it important to have conversations like this?
It's important to dialogue about things that we don't understand. When I think about if I was to take a text,
Come on now.
when the text suggests, "Come, let us reason together," there's this beckoning, right? There's no, you come here, or we're going to come to this same place and let us get some understanding, right? Going into Proverbs and all of our getting, we need to get understanding.
Yes.
But we won't have understanding unless we have conversations. And not just having conversations, because if we're having a conversation and you have your own agenda as to what you do, and there's just, that's all you're going to say what you're going to say and not be receptive to anything I have to say, that's not a conversation. That's a monologue. That's it. Right? There's no receptivity. So in having these types of conversations, it should provoke some deeper thought, some provocation of the soul, to make us think about how do we engage with one another. Yes. If we are not operating in the utmost love, right, and not viewing sexuality and gender fluidity as sinful, right, because that deficit frame then is informed by bias, which then leads to discriminatory practices. That's not cool, but unless we have conversations where we're able to challenge people's ideology and their theology and just their ways of being, we will continue to have a lot of the oppression that we have now, right? Where certain states are in the South have like no promo homo laws, where K-12 teachers cannot teach about LGBTQ plus identities and gender. Like, that's because those individuals are not willing to engage in conversations.
Absolutely. Right? You can't stop progress. You can't stop the beat. So whether or not you try to, I think Bishop Carlton Pearson put it like this: what you resist persists. And oftentimes when that persistence comes, you're forced to have the conversation that perhaps you should have had 20 years ago.
Yes.
So let me ask you this. You are in the process. You are a doctoral candidate. Congratulations, finishing up your PhD.
Yes.
I'll be very, very happy very soon to welcome you to the Academy.
Yes.
How are you going to use your voice to move the conversation forward in the areas of theology and just in academia, period? Because there's so much fear running rampant about a myriad of things, such as gender and sexual identity, as well as critical race theory. I had to do a presentation for the institution that I work for on critical race theory because there was a lack of understanding about it. A good teacher of mine once said that through education, ignorance can be fixed, but stupidity lasts forever. And so,
that's good.
So what will you do to move the conversation forward?
Yeah, so my dissertation, the title of my dissertation is Lift Every Voice and Sing, an intersectional qualitative examination of the lived experiences of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and queer faculty and administrators at HBCUs. Long title, of course. But when Spirit gave me that to study, I said, okay, we're going to go for it. I have had resistance along the way as I've been writing my dissertation, the final chapters. one of the main concerns for me has been I sent emails to every HBCU that's active, at least 3 to 5 people at every institution, and there's nothing worse than being left on red. As in, they did not, a good bit of them did not respond to my call for participants. And had I not met people over my course of working at HBCUs, I wouldn't have had my participant pool in order to do my research, to do this in-depth qualitative research study. So my dissertation work is transformational, it's groundbreaking. It has literally never been done. And the reason why I'm troubling this song, Lift Every Voice, and saying, because we do not provide spaces in the HBCUs for every voice to be lifted to sing the same song of liberation, right? So yeah, we can celebrate Juneteenth. That's beautiful, that there's a day. Okay. But the emancipation of the intersections of black people are not all equitable, right? There's this emancipation for the black hetero folks, but for those of us that are not that, there's this deliberate erasure. There's a deliberate silence. So my work is to engage in the conversation by the call out to call in. Like, these are the problems that are here, that are rooted in black church tradition, and thus causes oppression in our institutions, and how wrong that is, right? So let's listen to these 12 people and hear their stories about what it was like to navigate their careers at your institutions. Because now this calls you up. You have a sense of accountability as the community to support people who aren't, because we are not just black, right? Audre Lorde talks about we are not just a single, we don't just live on a single axis life, right? But we are our intersecting identity. So my work is very provocative. I believe that there will be some forms of backlash because my work is prophetic in nature. So anytime there's a prophetic work, there's going to be a shifting. There's going to be some type of breaking up of the fallow ground, right? So that there can be some other type of manifestation that's healthy. So I'm excited about it.
I'm excited about it as well. You know, again, I'm so very excited about your work. As Paulo Freire put it, that the oppressed oftentimes become the oppressor. And we must work to make sure that once we become free, that we don't turn around and oppress others. So, wow, again, super excited. So, why Atlanta? Why did you move here in the first place? What brought you to this wonderful city?
I moved to Atlanta to pursue my second master's degree. I was living in South Carolina. I had finished my first, I did undergrad, finished my first master's as well, was working. And Spirit had, after my mom died in 2014, September 10th, she died 2 days before my birthday. So when she passed, and my godmother passed 2 months after she did, so I found myself in December of 2014 asking God, like, hey, what the hell do you want now? Like, you're taking all my life away. Like, what do you want? And the instructions that I was given was to write the book and to move to Atlanta to go to seminary, to go to Emory. And I was like, yeah, I'll write the book. I ain't moving to no Atlanta, right? And so backtrack, when I was an undergrad, I got accepted to Emory, and I was supposed to, I don't want to say I was supposed to, I got accepted to Emory when I was done with undergrad. So I could have come in like 2011, but I opted not to. So when all of that stuff happened, it was just like, okay, I guess, Atlanta is there. But it wasn't until probably about March of 2015 where Spirit really started digging into me, like, you're going to move. And then there was stuff that started to happen in South Carolina that put fire up under my ass for me to have to get out. Not nothing bad, anybody searching for me or nothing, ain't none of that stuff. But it was time for me to go. So I moved to Atlanta on June 4th. I came to this city once a week for 3 months trying to find someplace to live. And it wasn't until the last week of May I stumbled across an apartment. And when I was there, that property manager and I connected in such a way. And I was moving here without no job. I didn't have nothing besides school, right? And that's uncommon for me because I'm like, I need to work. So she had a community assistant position open, and I was able to work there at this beautiful property, which is like 8 minutes from Emory. So, everything worked out divinely for me. So that's what brought me here. And here I am, 6 years later.
Awesome. So now, once again, I read on Facebook that your future is calling out to become your present. Where to next?
I don't know. I'm open to wherever spirit leads. I initially wanted to live in California because when I went there twice, I just did not want to come back to Georgia. So that's been one, and also I've been thinking about the DMV area as well. So when I think about career in my work, right, career-wise, DMV would be a great hub for education, for government, politics, whatever. All of that stuff is there. California, because they're leading in a lot of diversity, equity, and inclusion work, and I just like the culture of Southern California as well. Considering my artistic background, it's like it gives me the both and, right? So I'll have the balance, I'll have the work stuff, I get to be on somebody's magazine or something that they choose to shoot me for. You know what I'm saying? So it's been that aspect of life, but I'm honestly not sure at this point. What I've been sending to the universe is wherever I need to be that's going to help me grow into my next best self.
Yes.
I will be there.
Absolutely.
So if that is in Texas, if that is in Tennessee, I'm open. If it's in Canada, I'm open to wherever I'm led at this point.
Well, and so shall you be.
Mm-hmm.
I look very much forward to very soon welcoming you officially to the Academy. But I am certain that wherever you end up, that you will be amazing and do amazing things. Thank you so very much for having this conversation with me. We greatly appreciate it.
My pleasure, good brother.